Welcome back, Rage Nation. Got myself Pete here.
That's not really exciting.
You got Senior Dixon.
I don't think that's appropriate.
And you got Monsieur Leopard.
Explorers deserved it. No.
Absolutely.
I was disgusted. I cannot believe they've done this.
It's wacky, it's not good, it's just nonsense.
I disagree on that. That's not possible.
We're getting the band back together. We're on a mission. Yeah.
Now we've got a whole new list of things to complain about.
Welcome back, Rage Nation. We are at it again. Got myself Pete here, and I got into grinding out some Malifaux, and I got Monsieur Leopard here trying to get me to play Warmachine.
What up?
I hate to tell you guys, but I've been enjoying it quite a bit. Not gonna
He's
lie.
enjoying it. Come back. Come back.
Dude, you don't even have to say come back. I'm already there, man. It's me. Of course I know it.
I've already bought too many models.
I already spent don't tell the wife, I already spent $500. Gotta say that quiet in the house.
You gotta say that quiet, real quiet.
Yeah, but we're doing it, and I actually told the patrons this when I was chatting with them not too long ago, earlier this week, where I basically said that we're going to start putting out more Warmachine content, because obviously the podcast has always been ordered into, let's talk about what we're playing. Warmachine's taking up roughly about 40, maybe even close to 50% of my nerd time right now, split with Malifaux. So obviously I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to try to bring as many nerds with me as I can as we discover this exciting new world of Warmachine. But I got Chris. We'll talk about what we're going to chat on here in a second. But Chris, you just came back from the Greenville tournament there.
I did. It was a lot of fun. It was a long day. My daughter Cassidy just got her wisdom teeth out on Wednesday, so instead of doing the whole weekend in Greenville like I was planning, I ended up driving up there the morning of with a little over 3-hour drive, playing all day long in a 5-round tournament, which was awesome, massive tournament, and then driving back that night, getting home at 2 a.m. So it's like 21 hours of nothing but go. Yeah, it was fun. I had a blast.
I had to scratch an itch because you definitely are a tournament guy, so you were probably just like, yes, this is what I want.
Oh, the entire time I was there, I was like 100%, yeah, let's do this.
Well, cool. So I brought you on because what we're going to talk about today is, obviously, I'm still getting into it, so we're kind of just almost still in that exploratory phase, and then as we gather more information, obviously we'll do more things on like specific casters, tactics, strategies, all that stuff. But what I want this episode to be is really focused in on one, okay, why are people playing Warmachine, whether you're returning or you're new? Maybe you're one of my Malifaux listeners. Maybe you're interested in, getting in on this hotness, because it seems like nerds all over the planet are excited about Warmachine currently. And then we'll talk a little bit about the factions, because also I had some people that don't know anything about Warmachine saying like, okay, well, what are these factions here? And then finally, there was a casual play document that basically dropped. So we're not going to go through it in detail. We may do that, for another episode. But I did want to talk about it because I think that's cool that Steamforge did that. But before we get into it, make sure that you guys are checking us out. You can do that on our Discord channel that is in the show notes. Also, if you want to support us directly, if you're a Warmachine player and you want more Warmachine content, traditionally, as a podcast, we put out 3 to 4 episodes a month. Mostly that's been Malifaux, but if we start getting more patrons and listeners of Warmachine, that could drastically change. So
tell us what you want.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's really just what I'm also jonesing with at the moment. I'm kind of waiting for Weird to get their, foot out of their butt and start putting out the rest of their boxes and content and stuff that we can enjoy. But
yeah, they teased quite a bit.
They did, and the problem is not really delivering a lot right now. It's Rick from Beard Minis, he has a meme he keeps putting on the Discord where it's the stick figure poking Weird. It's just like, do something. Just do something. We have
anything.
But yeah, if you want to become a patron, if you want to support us, that's always appreciated. Patrons get episodes early, other content, pictures, all that fun stuff. Sometimes I do live streams where I'll just record it. If anybody shows up, we can ask questions. But that's at patreon.com/RageQuitWire. Definitely appreciate any support. We have great patron groups, so I definitely appreciate that. But let's get into it, Chris, just right off the rip here. So obviously both of us played Warmachine in the past, so we have that kind of, experience of it. So why do you feel like people stopped playing Warmachine? Because you were in it a little longer than I was. I got out kind of probably 6 months after third launch. That's kind of when I started getting out of it. So when did you get out, and what kind of drove you out of Warmachine, really?
Yeah, I got out probably around the middle of Mark III.
Yeah, you were in it for quite a bit.
Yeah, I was in it for a little while. I kept trying to tease you back into it, and I remember you came back a little bit playing some goats with Circle, but it didn't scratch your itch, or whatever you want to say. But I played in it for a lot longer than you did, but I eventually got out of it just because it was getting, it was just too much stuff. Like, it felt like they were just trying to, almost like a cash grab, if you will.
Yeah, I think that, one, the model range was just ridiculously huge.
It's insane, yeah.
And then on top of that, with the, I don't know, open beta, if you want to call it that, where they'd be like, hey, we're testing out Signar, and we're going to test out these models. Give us your feedback, and then we'll release rules. I felt like a lot of the models that came out of that ended up being way overtuned or overpowered, and it almost felt like, Privateer Press was kind of just doing that to buff models that weren't being sold, and so they could sell. So that's the main reason I got out, for sure. I like second edition a lot too. So
second edition was a lot of fun. So was third. Third was fun. The app change was, arguably for the better when they went from 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Now 4 is, it's great. I love it. Obviously it's not, the Malifaux app, but you can't have everything.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into that first part of what we're talking about. So us being people that are coming back to Warmachine, what would you say is one of the things that drew you back into it? And then I'll add on after that.
The biggest thing is the growing community. So, and the reason why the community is growing hits on some of the other topics that you wanted to talk about. Now we're getting the miniatures faster. We're getting more quantities of the miniatures that we want. So, like, when they say they're going to release a model, it's usually released pretty soon.
Yeah,
and you can actually buy it.
Yeah, and talking about the models, I think that's a big part, because you remember, especially second and third, when they would do an expansion book, they would say, here's all the new models for the new factions, but it would be very slowly rolled out within the next year or two. And
year or two.
You might
or two.
I remember playing Khador, and they had a new light jack that came out in one of those books, and I was super pumped, but it didn't come out for like a year and a half. So you could proxy it, but during those days, it wasn't as easy as it is today to proxy things.
Yeah. So, and that's the big, the great futuristic, age that we live in right now, where we've got access to a lot more quantity and
you
quality
can print stuff too.
3D printers. Yeah. So,
dude, that's so nice to hear that one of these game companies obviously they're not going to give you every file, but they're at least putting some stuff out there where they're like, hey, if you're interested in this older faction, or if you're interested in this alt sculpt, and being able to pick up those files is great for a lot of people that do that 3D printing.
Oh, 100%. And, even one of our locals here just got a 3D printer because he's getting back into the trolls.
Nice. Yeah, so I think, one, obviously anytime you have releases, that's going to hype people up. You can say what you want about Steamforged. Nobody's ever said anything bad about their model quality as far as the dynamic sculpt.
Beautiful models. Absolutely.
All sculpts have always been great. I think it is Russ. I think he's lead design on sculpts. If I'm wrong, somebody can let me know. But models have always been great. Even when I wasn't looking at playing Warmachine, our buddy, the non-tech Asian Chris Ewan, he actually showed me his Khador stuff last year. He's like, oh yeah, look, Privateer Press put out Khador stuff. And the models look fantastic.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
That's actually one of my gripes that I had back in second edition. You'll remember some of those models you had to assemble were awful. Like a mix of resin, metal, plastic.
Yeah.
You had to clip all this stuff, gaps, just nightmare to put together. And I got like I said, I got a lot of the brine bloods, and super easy to put together. They already have
Easy.
pockets built in for magnets. Really easy steps for assembly.
They're ridiculously easy.
Yeah.
Like anyone can do this. We've got a 10-year-old player who assembles and magnetizes and paints all his stuff. Like anyone can do it.
Yeah, so I think if you're definitely not a hobbyist, I think that's great because you can pretty much just slap them together. Pretty much it's like arm, head, random bit, done.
Yep.
So I think models are definitely one of the big things. Steamforge has always been top notch as far as models go. As far as their distribution, it seems pretty solid, which was my concern after coming from Guild Ball, because distribution of their products used to be a nightmare. Just they had a lot of hiccups, just problems. I think they've solved that by having different hubs in the United States, and then on top of that, the 3D printing. My store has been able to get stuff. I mean, they even got the new Creel Commando box in last week, and to me, that was awesome to see that. Hey, they're getting new stuff that is just getting released, which is awesome.
Yeah. Probably before some other stores are getting it too as well. I mean, depending on how close they are to a hub. I mean, our hub here in South Carolina is Florida, and it's like a day and a half shipping.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I, bought off of their page and got it in a couple of days. And I was just like, I'm used to like weird waiting a week and a half to mail it off or 2 weeks to mail it off and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think the new model, and also here's another reason why, as a returning player, I'm kind of interested to come back to Warmachine. It's actually one of the reasons why I didn't want to play Guild Ball as often as I can, because Guild Ball, that's content and that's games that I've already spent years of my life playing. I had somebody ask me, well, I wish you guys would, create Guild Ball content again. And it's just like, the rules haven't changed that much. The models haven't changed that much. I've already recorded those episodes. There's nothing there to excite
nothing
me.
New. Yeah, there's nothing new.
Whereas in Warmachine, I don't think I would have came back if it was just like, oh, they're relaunching rules for the already existing models. They actually now have moved the story forward, which is really cool. But they've also kind of shown how they're still related to the old factions, but it's how the factions have developed in the story. Like I was reading up the Trolls background, and the Creoles basically, because of the expansion of the other kingdoms, if you will, in the Iron Kingdoms, they basically encroached on the Trolls and pushed them out of their lands. And now they got pushed down south where they're having to go, into the seas to, loot and piracy and, cause as much chaos. They have the commandos where they're down there now, and they're basically just using guerrilla warfare to try and keep their land that they have on this one peninsula that they're just trying to cling on to. So I like that they're using the story not just to create these new factions, but we have new characters. You have Boom Howler, who is, I don't know if she's a daughter or a granddaughter of one of the Boom Howlers in the other edition of Warmachine, which is just really cool as somebody comes back to see how
story content. Yeah, it's content. Yeah.
Or I was talking to you, Shadow Tongue actually got like kidnapped by the Cricks and tortured, and now he's all this dark soul-y kind of guy.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really cool to come back to it and not just see that the old stuff got reworked, but that the story's moving forward and there's new stuff and new ideas that are coming into the game, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you were an ex-Khador player. You were pretty big into Khador, and you got the witch who splintered off and decided that she didn't want to support the motherland anymore, and created her entire new faction. And now it's, wilderness and everything like that. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's another reason where if you're coming back into it, it's going to be, the way I felt about it is it's very familiar, but it's different. Because a lot of the rules are very similar, but some of them have been cleaned up, which is really nice. And it's just getting back used to, it's kind of funny. I remember when I played one of my 50-point games, I just kind of remembered like, oh yeah, I remember how this game goes. because I forgot that most of your units you have to move first and then you can do stuff. You can't do stuff, move, and because in Malifaux you can do whatever you want. You can be like, oh yeah, I'm
do
gonna
whatever you
move,
want. Yeah.
I'll shoot, I'll move, whatever again. So it was kind of cool just to be like, oh yeah, I remember that I couldn't do that.
Yep, can't do that. Yep.
Is there anything else that really kind of brought you back where you're just like, yeah, this is a good time for me to come back, or this is something that seems cool, or anything else that's speaks to you?
Yeah, fell in love with the new factions, fell in love with the new sculpts. I love how easy it is to play Warmachine. Like, it's not a difficult game. You don't need to go out and get all this stuff to play it. It's just dice and your models more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty low investment once you have the models to get into it, right? You only need a handful of dice. You only need measuring sticks if you have them, but you could use a tape measure. That's fine, until you get measuring sticks. Another thing I will say that's refreshing, you and I both played Malifaux. What would you say is one of the benefits of painting Warmachine over Malifaux stuff?
I don't know. Warmachine, painting it is, in my opinion, way easier. I mean, the models
what I was going to say.
The models are a little bit bigger. You've got more room to maneuver.
Yeah, think about the humanoids in Malifaux and the gremlins, where their faces are so tiny. And now that's why I'm kind of excited to paint again, because looking at these Warmachine models, I'm like, sweet, I got this big, huge troll, and I got these big weapons, and dude. So here's something else I like about the models.
You've got some pigs, though. Okay, you got little pigs, so those are going to be a little bit harder.
They weren't too bad. They're bigger than gremlins in Malifaux, dude. The gremlins in Malifaux are ridiculous small. No, but so here's the thing I actually like, and I think this is part of Steamforged. Back in second edition and earlier, so if you go second and earlier, a lot of the models, except for Crix, I would say, a lot of the models could tend to be very generic-y, if that makes sense. Maybe a lot of flat surfaces on the jacks. Some of the infantry models were pretty, static, and maybe just shield, weapon, helmet.
Yeah.
Dude, I was painting up my Brine Bloods and just seeing the incredible detail, because I was painting my huge crab, war beasts, my dire troll and the crab character. And there is a couple of just nuanced spots where they have barnacles placed, and it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really makes the model look a lot cooler.
Yeah,
and just more realistic. Not realistic, but you know what I'm saying. It looks more detailed.
Yeah, not like the I forget what the acid troll was, the one that was like and corrosion. Yeah, it's not just like plain blank, and it's up to you whether or not to put little spots on them and stuff like that. No, every model that is newer release models, they're all beautiful. All the infantry units, they got little ammo pouches on them.
That one Kador model, it's an infantry model that I saw somebody on the Discord painting, and it was actually like almost a live action shooting a rocket, and it's the rocket coming out with the smoke. Really
That's
cool.
That's the SKS6, the solo that comes out of there. I actually have that model, and I was really looking forward to painting it. Yeah, but I'm holding off until we do our Journeyman League.
Or I don't know, it's whatever the new name is for basically the Legion of Everblight faction. But they have one war beast where it actually has the fire kind of sweeping down from its mouth. Is pretty cool.
That's actually you're thinking of Orgoth.
Yeah,
it's Azarok or whatever, the bird. Yeah.
So the model's really good. Like I said, Steamforged has always done a great job with that. So that's kind of something that definitely got me back into it. Also, just somewhat consistency with the rules, meaning like a lot of it that I used to know still fits, but there's
riding a bicycle. But there's a couple of
tweaks that you got to kind of, you've got to familiarize yourself with.
I like all of the tweaks that they've done. Like it seems more streamlined. It seems more you're able to get games quicker.
So something I will say, and this is for people who have kind of maybe no interaction with Steamforged before at all. Steamforged always had great developers working on their games. The rules were all, even Guild Ball, probably one of the best balanced games just ever built. It's just fantastic. You know, Jamie, Perkins, that whole squad, they always do a great job of balancing stuff, and when something needs to be adjusted, they're really good at coming up with creative solutions for that. So that's kind of what I'm saying. The models, fantastic. Rules, I know it's going to be on point eventually, even if it's not, just because that team always does a great job. And they've shown that the distribution has been cleaned up, which is really the big problem with them. But then I also had kind of this, thing in my head where I was like, okay, but they also, stopped Guild Ball because people were overly competitive. So that's why when we get to the end of this and we talk about the casual format, that's going to be cool because they're actually pushing that just so we can kind of get out of, I think, what Warmachine traditionally has had a problem with. Because you can probably, anybody that played Warmachine will know, you were always pretty much just testing for future tournaments. There was not a lot
for tournaments.
Yeah, not a lot of campaigns, not a lot of grow leagues, no narratives. It was all about what's my most optimal list I can bring to my next event.
And I want to run it 100 times so that I can get so used to playing it. Yeah, absolutely.
So to me, seeing the direction they're taking it, because I don't mind being grindy. I like tournaments. I like getting into it, but I also like cool narratives, cool campaigns. So to me, seeing that it's getting moved in that direction as well, you can get both out of it. You can grind for a tournament coming up, or you can be like, hey, let's do like a summer campaign.
Yep.
So
I'm actually really excited about the campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, I just browsed through it, but there's a lot of cool things in there for sure. So we've kind of been talking about us, coming back, some things we like. Why do you think maybe somebody who hasn't ever played Warmachine before should kind of take a look at it?
All right, so if you're interested in miniature games and it comes to a quantity of players that play in your locale, you're going to be running into, your Malifaux, your Infinities, your Age of Sigmars, your 40Ks, and your Warmachine. When it comes to all of those, the easiest ones to play are going to be your most fun, obviously. So Age of Sigmar, 40K, if you want to roll just a shit ton of dice, that's fine.
If you
that's
want cool models and you want to roll
a ton of dice, then that's on you. And you want the power creep calendar where they just make one faction overpowered, and then you got to wait 2 years for your faction to come around, and then you'll start winning games. You go for it. Malifaux, like you were saying, Weird's having problems getting their stuff out, getting their act together, if you will. Infinity is just way overcomplicated.
Well, not only that, I think Infinity is weird because I feel like unless you're on the western part of the United States, it's really hard
not
to
a
find
lot
a
of
group.
support. Yeah, absolutely.
Like the New Mexico, Arizona, California area has a ton of it. I think Utah has a decent amount of it as well. But the further you get to the East Coast, I feel like the less people play Infinity.
Yep. But then you got Warmachine, beautiful, beautiful models, easy to play, common sense rules. All the rules are pretty common sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, once you learn them.
You're rolling 2 to 4 dice.
Yeah.
With the exception of one
pretty much
weird roll.
Okay, what is your mat or rat? That just means your attack value. Okay, add it to the 2 dice that you're rolling, maybe more or less, depending on the situation. Okay, does that match your opponent's number? If so, yes, you hit. Okay, now roll for damage. That's the power of your attack against their armor plus the dice.
Yep.
If it goes over their armor, that's how much damage.
That's your damage. Yep, that's your damage. Easy enough.
Yeah. So once you learn that basic mechanic, it's kind of easy to get down. And then after that, it's really just figuring out, there's certain character traits. And then obviously there's things for weapons or your casters. But that's all just repetition. You'll get those down, the more you play.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, ease of play, not overly complicated. Not
I like what they did. So I didn't know if I was going to like it, but after the 3 games that I've played, The unit movement, I actually kind of like what they did there with
Snapping? Yeah, I do. I like it. Yeah.
because you pick one model, you move it, and then you just place within 2 of each other
Within 2 inches
of the model you moved.
of the model you moved. Yep.
Which you can actually get because there was a part in one of my games where I moved and I was able to put the rest of them up forward 2 inches from the model.
Absolutely.
And
And hey, now I'm in range. I
Yeah.
can shoot you now.
Yep, that's exactly it. And it just I remember playing in second edition where you had to measure each one out and they had to be within like 2 inches of each other at all times. And then somebody would get picked off and then you'd be out of cohesion. So like I said, I feel like they cleaned up a lot of the areas that could be a little heavily contested about some of your overly competitive friends. So that's good. New players don't have to worry about firing arcs and facing, which is nice because, yeah, that was cool. But when you were a newer player to the game, it definitely was frustrating because you just want to shoot people. Yeah, great models.
I do miss shooting models in the back, though, to get that defense debuff.
Yeah, or getting out of their line of sight so they couldn't shoot you back.
Yeah.
I would say also just as a new player, it's one of those things where I think people that have started their tabletop gaming playing 40K, I think Warmachine is a nice transition to a game that's more interesting. It's going to be more complicated, not complicated, but there's more depth to it than a game like 40K. You don't have to pay as much, which is always good. The app now is free to a certain extent, which is awesome. And I just think that there's more you can do with your models on the table. Because I was always amazed when I came to play Warmachine, coming from 40K, because that's where I came from, and fantasy. I was always amazed how you could do stuff to, manipulate your models to do more on the battlefield. Besides just walk, shoot, or walk this, or walk attack, stab, stab. I mean, just the fact that you could extend threat ranges, because in 40K, that's not really something that's ever heard of.
Right.
Back in the day, you could throw your own models. You can't do that anymore, but that was always fun where you're just like, I'm going to pick up my model and throw them at you and knock you down. But
I've won some games that way.
Yeah, AoEs, though, and sprays. Warmachine doesn't, or not Warmachine, 40K doesn't really have that anymore, so you still have ways to hit multiple models. I feel the Warcasters are just more dynamic than your characters in 40K because just the spells that they have, the different attacks they have, their feats. Feats are probably the most fun thing about coming in as somebody who hasn't played Warmachine before. Feats are just amazing. Chris, can you just run us through what a feat is and why players will really like that mechanic if they've never encountered it before?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a couple of different types of feats. You've got obviously offensive and defensive feats. Generally, casters who have offensive feats, it's a once per game ability.
Or your leader that you choose in your.
Casters are your leader. Yep, absolutely. That lead a band of either big mechanical machines or big beasts, and then you've got all your units and infantry that they also lead, but not as much as the actual battle group or cohort models. But once per game, the leader has a special ability that they'll be like, I'm going to feat, and then it just does something to change the way that the game kind of runs. So there are some feats that every single model in your army.
It's like the swing of battle, like you're trying to change the momentum.
Yeah, you're trying to change the moment, the momentum. So there are offensive feats that let everybody take a shot again. There are defensive feats where all of your enemies that are in your control range lose speed, lose defense, lose armor, stuff like that. So your feats are kind of those moments in the game where you're just, let's change or overwhelm or something like that.
I will say one of the feats that I've enjoyed so far is I've been playing Ragemonger, and his feat is to place himself 5 inches. And then for the rest of the turn, any friendly model that rolls a 1 on attack or damage
so good.
Counts as a 6.
It's so good.
The idea is you set up and then you jump in. It's called Jump the Shark as well, which if you're, a Happy Days fan like this guy was, not that I was around when it came out, but I enjoy a good Happy Days rerun. The Fonzie Jump in the Shark episode, Love it. Anyways, I've popped that off a couple times, and just the amount of ones I've rolled, because if you just think about it mathematically, you're going to go, okay, I'm going to get a crap ton of attacks this turn. I'm going to boost all the attacks I can. I'm going to see how many ones I can roll. If you roll a bunch of ones, you should play Ragemonger because that's going to be your turn. That's going to be where
That
you
is
shine.
your turn. In fact, not this past tournament that I played, but the one before that, same Greenville place.
Yeah.
I played against a guy called Aubrey, who's from the North Carolina meta. He played the amount of ones that he rolled against me,
Sixes.
and I'm over here I'm like, dude, you are destroying everything that I have. And I was like, at one point, he was like, oh, that's critical, knockdown. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a second, a one? No, you rolled a 1 and a 6.
Yeah, I did.
Technically I rolled 2 6s.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm over here like, dude, this is
This
broken.
is wrecking me.
This is broken. Oh my God. You know me. I'm like, gosh, that's broken.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
so broken.
Oh yeah, the first time you ever see something that's good, it's going to feel broken. But yeah, those feats. It's if you've ever played a game back in Guild Ball, it was called a legendary. Some characters, captains had those once per game pop for an effect. Uh, there's ultimates in lots of different games. Finishers in your favorite wrestling game, whatever you want to call it. But that's what a feat is. It's meant to really, if you plan it out and you pop it at the perfect time, it can either make your opponent's turn worthless if it's a defensive feat, or if it's an offensive feat, you can just brutalize your opponent, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Yep.
So if you're new to coming into Warmachine, that's one of the beautiful things about the game. And each Warcaster has a unique one. So as far as I know, there might be some that are similar, but there's no feats that they're the same. Each one has their own unique thing.
No, each one has their own unique ability. There's none that I know of that are the same.
Which is
Absolutely.
also cool though, Chris, because if you like list building, I feel like Warmachine's something you'll enjoy doing that with. So if you're coming from a game and you wish I wish my list could be a little more unique or different, you can put different options as far as weapons on models, mainly your war beasts or your jacks. There's some different versions of units where you could, change out certain things, but mostly it's on your war beasts and jacks that you'll be able to switch out arms, their head options, things like that. So if you like creating lists and you like really grinding out and thinking about, because in this game they also have not just units, you have attachments that can help units do different things. You have solos, you have mercenaries you can add, you have character models and units. So there's a lot of cool things that you can start to mess with, and even changing one solo in your list can change your list very dramatically.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely. Because there are solos that buff all of this type of unit,
Or there's also some that, I was looking at, what is it, Madame Moriarty, whatever her name is, the alligator kind of juju. I'm going to use my, my voodoo to take you down. She has a lot of things where she's like, I'm going to stab you, and now I dispel all of the, animi or all the spells that you had giving you buffs. She can also cast spells to make you re-roll dice, which is kind of cool. So she's kind of she's a solo, but she's kind of like a mini Warcaster a little bit, which is kind of cool. So list building, another reason why, if you haven't played Warmachine, it's one of the great things about it. Also, if you're a competitive player and you've never played Warmachine, Warmachine is notoriously a competitive game when it comes to tournaments. Obviously, we'll talk about the casual dock a little bit, that they're adding that, which is great. But Warmachine tournaments are notoriously a tournament where it's like, yeah, you're going to throw down. You're going to put your best foot forward. I did like hearing that you had a good mix of kind of newer players and vets, though, in that tournament. So that was kind of cool to hear as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you like grindy tournament games, Warmachine's one of those things where you can get really, really into the weeds, really competitive. And it's a lot of fun if that's something that you're interested in, which, I mean, Chris and I are. We like going to tournaments. So that's what I think another reason why we both were geared towards coming back to it, because we're like, oh yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, absolutely. I love tournaments. I love the camaraderie more than anything else. but I also love the competition, stuff like that. And I love the fact that it's on clock, and it's not just a timer for the whole game. It's a death clock. So
Yeah, and I know one thing that some Malifaux players asked me about is if you recall, Chris, Malifaux, it's I activate a model, you activate a model, which a lot of people love. In Warmachine, it's I have a full turn, then you do your full turn, which some people don't like. So you playing Malifaux, which is the model for model back and forth, how do you feel coming back to a game where it's like I do everything, you do everything?
I'm actually really enjoying it because there are synergies that I like synergy. I like synergistic armies. So I like this guy buffs this guy to do this thing, helps with this, to do this. I love it. And doing individual models, while I love Malifaux, and I'll always love Malifaux, I enjoy the game immensely. Um, the fact that like it takes so long to set that up. Like you can't do it as well as you can in Warmachine. Warmachine, you have an entire turn. The longer it takes you to play your turn, if you're at a tournament, that's your own detriment. It goes, it's not going to be great, but you can still set those synergies up, and it gives you the ability to set it up without something happening to where, oh, I moved in the way of this, and you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think it's just a little different, right? Like obviously I do like the model back and forth in Malifaux and other games. But something I remembered once I started playing Warmachine again is that the I go, you go for your whole turn and their whole turn. There's actually a different strategy there that you can take depending on your play style or the list that you're bringing. Because I could be hyper aggressive and go, I'm just trying to take as many models off of his list as possible, which that's a strategy. But one, bad rolls do happen. So if you whiff on half or most of your attacks, you're overextended and you're in trouble.
You're in
Okay?
trouble.
Now, the opposite's true where I can go, okay, Chris is probably looking to go into his feet. I know it's going to wreck me. So I need to do more defensive. I'm going to put up, these spells. I'm going to do this animus. I'm going to stealth some units. And I'm going to make it hard. I'm going to buff my stats. I'm going to make it hard and blunt that feat turn. And you can do that, but then it's like, oh, Chris didn't feat because he saw all the stuff I did. Well, now what do I do on my next turn? You're kind of on
Now, yeah, well, shit.
and on top of that, you kind of want a mix of it. At least I do when I play Warmachine. I go, okay, I want to try to pick off a few models, but then I need to kind of prepare myself for a counterpunch. So yes, you're not going back and forth in the immediate. But for example, when I was playing one of my games, I went in hard, but then I left 3 Fury on Warmonger because I was like, okay, I'm in deep. I need to put up Star-Crossed Lovers because that's the only way my cohort's going to survive.
Yeah. Starcross is so good right now,
It
too.
Yeah, and I just caught myself in like his whole army. I'm just like, yeah, you can try to kill the Rage Monger. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see. It's so good.
So yeah, even though you don't have the back and forth like I go, you go model wise, there's strategy and like you said, where you can set up your turn and you can try to take models out or go to score, but then you have to prepare yourself for your opponent coming back. And I like it because it's not like Age of Sigmar where you're going to get double activated. I hated that so much in Age of Sigmar.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because there's no way to prepare. You're like, oh, if they go again, I'm just getting wrecked.
I'm dead. Yeah. Oh, if you get 2 turns in a row, I'm dead.
No, I think that's the dumbest thing they did in that game.
It's the dumb, and it's still that way.
Yeah,
it's still the dumbest thing ever. Like,
yeah. So that, okay, I did my full turn, and you do have to weather it a bit. I mean, that's the thing. You're an army, they're an army, you're fighting. So you have to find ways to get creative and, try to blunt attacks and try to push through certain areas, claim objectives that you're going to have to do. I do like in this edition, and it probably was this way in third, the scenarios seem a little more interesting to me than they used to be. So
Absolutely.
I do like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they are much more interesting. The third, they had some, okay scenarios, but it was
Yeah, 'cause
mostly
we were talking mostly it was just point differential at the end of the game.
get to the middle, fight it out. Like the scenario was whoever can get there first and hold off dying.
Yeah, because we played one of the casual scenarios, and it had multiple points that we were kind of fighting over, which was cool.
Yep, absolutely. You
Some
gotta
of
know
them
how to
were in the
split,
middle,
divide
some were
your
kind of
army.
towards your
Yep.
opponent's deployment. So it was cool to see.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah. So also, if you're a new player, if you're interested in Warmachine, and you've never played it before, the cool thing is, besides 40K, I I am willing to bet that there's a handful of players getting back into it. So if you're looking for people who want to play consistently, this is one of the games where I feel like it's easy to get people to play right now, which is what really drove me back to it. Because even in my meta, which pretty much it's like 40K, MCP, and the rest of the games are very sporadic, very hard to get games in. This popped real quick. I mean, it's only been since January is when my store got it and was like, hey, we're doing this. And they already are struggling to keep stuff on the shelves. People build stuff quick, they're painting stuff quick. They want to play. It's really cool to see a game. And it's everybody I've talked to around the country that is looking at Warmachine has some players in their meta that want to play it. So I feel besides 40K, probably Age of Sigmar, this is probably the next easiest Warmachine or sorry, tabletop game to get into and actually find games.
I like that Freudian slip there. This was the
Warmachine.
best Warmachine game to get into.
Yeah, so really excited about that. Yeah, so let's talk about the factions real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit about the casual play. So looking at the factions, I'm going to pull them up right here. So I'm not going to go over all the old school factions. That's things like Scorn, Circle, all the old school stuff. It is, I will say, Steamforged did a good job with Warmachine on their website. So if you're interested in more detail on that, they do have it pretty easy to find on there. They also have articles on how stuff plays, new models coming out, how you can get into the print subscription thing they have if you want to 3D print your own models. But I'm going to go through the ones that are currently just in the main, I don't know, what do they call that? It's not Legacy. What's the Prime?
Prime.
Prime is kind of all the new.
Although there are now Prime Armies of Legend. So like the old stuff, they have made a Prime version of them that's kind of, balance them a little bit more, took out all the ton of casters that they had and only kept like a core group of casters. Yeah. But yeah, so what you're talking about is the newer stuff. Yeah.
So, and generally speaking, this is a world, if you're kind of just getting into it, this is a world of, it's very steampunk, robot. You have these monsters, magicka, lots of guns, lots of, close combat weapons and formations. You even have these huge colossals and battle engines. So that's kind of the vibe of it. And they're just warring factions. Some of them are more military. Some are more, very natural. Some are obviously these, I'm going to sacrifice people to get souls to do things. But I think we have to start with Signar because to me, this is the ultramarine of the game. This is your quintessential, we're the good guys fighting against the evils of the world, protecting, people that we can protect. Is that the vibe you kind of always have gotten from Signar?
Yeah, they're like the Knights of Legends.
And they use electricity and guns to kill you.
Yeah, well, I mean that's one iteration of Signar now. There's two iterations now.
So let me ask you this: so is Signar the Storm Legion? Is that more of your traditional feel of Signar, whereas the Gravediggers are different now?
So they're both the same Signar feel. They just took some of the casters that were more electric casters, like they dealt with more of like the Mechanica,
the more Tesla version of
the Tesla versions of them, and then they took the the more shooty and the more stompy ones and put them over into Gravediggers.
Okay. I will say I did like Gravediggers have this mechanic where they basically airdrop stuff in. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the dude feeded, and all of a sudden there were mines just directly in front of me. And it's like, oh yeah, if you do this and you get hit by it, you get knocked down. I was like, well, that sucks.
Well, that's dumb.
Well, thanks for throwing those in front of my whole faction. So yeah, I think if you are one of those people that you like the quintessential good guys, and then if you like shooty, if you like guns, traditionally Signar is very good at that.
Absolutely.
So if we're talking about Signar being the goodies, the good guys, we have to talk about, obviously, right off the bat, the evil boys, which is the Cricks. I guess they're called the Necrofactorium now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say they're evil. They're just their own type
If you're
of
stealing
people.
people's souls, they're evil.
No.
That's literally how they run their warjacks. They steal your soul and go, cool.
No. Just because they have skull faces and they're walking around with pieces falling off of them and stuff
they have like full-blown masks of people's faces that they cut off.
They cut off. That's not evil. That's just an aesthetic. Come on, man.
So I will say traditionally, and you can tell me if this is still the same, Cricks have been more, we're going to use obviously magic. They also have some ethereal models that they can kind of shenanigans move through walls, and they also like to rip your face off. They have arc notes to do their magic through. Not a ton of range with them traditionally. Is that still very much the same? They kind of just want to, murder you up close a lot of times?
Yeah, it's very similar. They do have some ranged options now, which is pretty cool. Like, there used to be a faction that shall not, remain unnamed that could shoot through anything, ignore line of sight to shoot you. They've got some guns like that now. But yeah, mostly they're incorporeal until they attack you.
I still see they have the little shredder jacks.
Yeah. The little ripper. I think they're called raptors now or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. So if you like that kind of undead necro nonsense, Cricks is
well. So just listen to some of the names of these jacks. You've got Death Jack, Hades, Hellraker.
Let's just say Cricks tends to have a vibe that attracts a certain type of person. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not judging you, but I'm judging you if you play Cricks.
I'm not judging at all.
All right. This next one I might need your help with because I actually don't know. It's the Dusk House Callus.
Yeah.
Tell me about this faction, what it used. Oh, is this where Retribution went? Is that what this is?
Yes, this is the old Ret. So now they're energy vampires, if you will.
They used to be these goody elves, but apparently they went bad.
Yeah, they are now bad. And so there's two different iterations. So like Signar, we were talking about Storm Legion and then Gravediggers.
Yeah.
Where Crix only has Necrofactorium right now. We're waiting for the next release. And there's speculation about what it'll be, but nobody really knows. And then Dusk is what old Ret used to be. Ret's god Syra died, was killed. I'm not ascended to something else. I have no idea. But
now they're lost and confused. They lost their god. They lost.
Well, yeah, all of their abilities really came from their god. Like it was all like power fields. Or force fields or whatever you want to call them and stuff like that. Yeah, all of that got lost to them. So now they like energize all their stuff with souls. So they're like energy vampires, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. It's aesthetically, it is very. I can't say that there's a single faction that I don't aesthetically just absolutely love.
Traditionally. The Retribution, I actually hated their warjacks because I thought they just looked like when we were talking about earlier.
Eldar, yeah, Eldar.
They had so many flat curved surface. They looked like Gundam models, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which, if you like that, you like it. Whatever. I just thought it looked stupid. But now looking at these models for the Dusk House Callus, their jacks are more dynamic. They still have this. It feels a little more sci-fi than steampunk, but that's kind of their vibe. They were a little more advanced, if you want to say that.
Yep.
as far as their technology. So this has very much that same vibe just looking at these models.
Yeah, but they added a lot more nicer details.
Yeah.
It looks like, like mechs, they look like, big knights in shining armor
Yeah.
kind of feel. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
So
they all look very
they
pretty.
still have a lot of the same, because I know before they used to have like shield mechanics and stuff like that. Do they still have some of that or now?
No, they got rid of that. They now their thing is well, actually, there's kind of a lot of different iterations, as you know, with each of the different units.
Yeah.
They all have their own little feel to them, but overall, they are high defense, low armor, good attacks, fast. Like, I mean, yeah,
Kind of like mobile hit and run then.
mobile hit and run, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we got the Callus there. Then next we have the good old Kador. We have Winter Core, and then we have the old Umbri. Now, Kador traditionally has been pretty much, I don't think the ball was hidden there. It was meant to be very similar feel to the Red Army. It was, the Soviet kind of feel to it. You had infantry that a lot of times were meant to just be speed bumps. They were basically just meat to slow down. Basically, they were protecting their warjacks with human shields. They had the biggest jacks. Their, Colossal was, I'm pretty sure, was the biggest Colossal in the game. Thing was ridiculously the behemoth. It was known for just, we're easy to hit. We have lots of armor, lots of hit boxes, and our infantry will die. So we'll go over the old Umbri here in a second, but the Winter Core, is that pretty much still the same vibe it has?
It's kind of the same vibe, absolutely. It's obviously the motherland and all of that spiel.
Now I will say though, Kador kind of had the same issue that Retribution had in a different way with their models. A lot of their jacks kind of looked the same. They didn't have a ton of detail, but looking at the resculpts, they have a lot more. There's a little more liveliness to these jacks. They're not as kind of static stoic, and they just a couple of new details in there that make them a little more appealing to look at than just a inert jack look.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Back in the day, every single Kador jack looked the same. The only way that you could tell the difference was if there was a different gun on it.
Yeah.
There's an axe. Okay, I know that one's going to hit me, and there's a gun. Okay, that one's going to shoot me. No, now all the jacks look different. You can tell what the jack is depending on what sculpted it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then randomly we have Kador Old Umbri.
No, not random. Not random. No, not
it seemed random to me.
Definitely not. No. The old witch, which used to be a Kador model, a Kador and Grimkin model, which I played Grimkin, so I played the witch as well. But she decided that she was going to go off on her own, whether it be for vacation, retirement, whatever you want.
Whatever witches do when they want to retire.
She went up into the woods, into the deep forests of the Kador North country, and she founded this new Kador faction. So they are very much still fighting for the cause, if you will, but they are,
Now, I will say, if you were a Circle of Orboros player, you're probably going to be drawn to this faction, the old Umbri.
You're going to like the aesthetics,
because it's the same. You have a druidy feel with your kind of characters, but the beasts that you have, they very much have a darker D&D feel to them. You got like these owl bears and these Strixes running around. I saw that some of the head options for the war beast, one of them had like a stag head that I thought was very cool looking. So if you like that, druid kind of feel to it, I think you're gonna like this faction. And I played against my buddy Brian here locally, and they feel a little bit like Circle still, just because they can have stupid high defense. I don't know if it was his feat turn, but he was like defense 18, stealth, concealing, And I was just like, okay, yep, this is a druid thing. I'm in the woods now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. Not super high defense on all the units,
Yeah.
especially or all the models, especially the units. They're all pretty base 13 or 12 and then 13. But yeah, some of the jacks or some of the beasts are 13, 14, and it's
Yeah,
just, it's
and
beautiful. I'm
depending on
here
the
for it.
caster you bring, and this is also the interesting thing about playing it. It is one of those cool things that I noticed playing against this, old Umbri, that the caster and the solos and the animi that you decide really buff up and it layers very nicely. So if you don't do that, I think you'll get wrecked because it's like, oh yeah, defense 12 isn't going to do much. But when you layer it with feats, spells, and animi to boost that up, it makes
Yep,
it way more difficult to approach that.
absolutely. Yep, 100%.
Let's see here. So then we have I guess that's Chimera Shadow Flame Shard. This one reminds me of Legion of Everblight.
Yeah, you nailed it right there. It's Chimera and it's New Legion. So I don't know the storyline, but something happened with the old
It
Legion.
looks like so they were traditionally this dragon, basically flying
Yeah,
dragon, monsters, hit and run. They would have archers and different, very skirmishy feel to them and very
yep,
fast. It looks like just looking at the images from some of these models that yeah, they still have that kind of dragony, vibe, but they got a little mechanical as well. So I
they
don't know.
did. Yeah, so yep. So they're wearing some like the snakes are wearing armor. It's dragons and then snakes now instead of just like dragons and demonic looking things.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. Almost every model in that entire faction is beautiful.
Yeah, so that's one that I'm definitely more interested to get in on the fluff on, just to kind of understand how it got from that point to this point for sure.
Yes, definitely.
And then yeah, talk to me about Orgoth Sea Raiders. I don't know if I'm familiar with what's going on here.
Yeah, so Orgoth actually was a like a accumulation of a couple of different factions. I mean, it has Butcher in it, Butcher 5. So
Chris
Butcher
was
was an
asking me,
old.
he's like, so do I got to play Orgoth now? Because I'm the butcher guy.
Yeah, yeah. So it's Butcher 5, so fifth iteration of Butcher. I think it's one of the only reiterations
Yeah,
of casters. But Butcher 5 and Orgoth, it feels kind of like Satixis from Old Crix mixed in with Kador mixed in with Scorn. Kind of a little bit of a vibe to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say, now that you're saying that, I do see some of these models I'm looking at that have some of those Scorn vibes to them. I wouldn't call it Oriental armor look to it, but it's very like it has those
Yeah.
points to it that kind of
Yep.
reflect some of that. And
Yep.
then they have some of those beasts that definitely kind of patrolish, kind of, but in that Scorn feel of it.
Yep. And some of the solos also remind me a lot of like Scornish type,
How does Orgoth play generally? Do you have a lot of experience or just general like, hey, they kind of do this?
Yeah, actually, I played a little bit, or for a little while, or I played Orgoth, and one of the reasons why they didn't really feel like me is because they are very much a run up and punch you list.
They're a come
And
fight me bro kind of list.
yeah, yeah, they're I want to get up, I want to fight. They can they can take a hit. They're actually they take a pretty good hit,
Yeah,
but they just want to fight you, and I like. I
that
mean,
sounds right up Ewan's alley.
yeah, yeah, it's Yoon's alley, 100%. And I told him I was like, you could use my Orgoth if you want. Like, you don't even have to buy into it if
Oh,
you
there
want
you
to
go.
try it. But I like synergy. Like, don't get me wrong, I like to run up and fight you, but I like to, I like balance when it comes to
Yeah,
different units to bring. I love theory crafting. So when you were talking about list building and stuff like that, oh, I love theory crafting.
yeah. So definitely interested. I hope Ewan does play Orgoth because yeah, that sounds right up his alley for sure.
Oh, run out, and that's what I told him. Like I gave him a basic rundown of each of the factions, and I was like, Orgoth is I want to run up and hit you.
Yeah. All right, and then we have what's near and dear to my heart with the Southern Creoles. So these are, if you have played before, this is your troll sub-faction, essentially. They have a different feel to them, though, because like I said, they're no longer in the mountains. They got smoked out of there. So now we have the ones that are looting the coast and the sea with the Southern Creoles Brine Blood Marauders.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the new, because the other one's brand new, so we're actually still kind of learning about them. I like this is exactly what got me back into Warmachine, because I was on board. I was like, okay, yeah, this seems kind of cool. And then I saw Troll Pirates, and I'm like, son of a gun, I'm in. Like,
son of a gun, I'm in. All in.
You got me.
Shut up and take my money.
I just kept, it's that meme of the guy with his credit card just slamming it. That was me.
Yeah. Swipe. It's not working. It's not working.
So this is two. So I feel this faction 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a lot of points I'm going to give here, but one, if you like the aesthetic of they got a very World of Warcraft feel to them, don't they? They're just they have this very characterful, just over pronounced features, huge jaw lines, very just lots of character to them. It's just and it's very tongue in cheek in a lot of the rules and the models. Like I said, jump the shark, ridiculous. I love it. Guy riding a shark, literally not in water. It's a land shark. So
it's a land shark. Yep.
Pirates who are on boats, this one's on land. So you think you're safe, you're not. The tuna is going to hunt you.
You're not safe, man.
But all the models have they're very characterful. They have, if that's a word, they have a lot of characters, probably a better way to say that. You have the small trolls, the medium trolls, and the big trolls. So it's got this, mama bear, papa bear, kid bear kind of feel to it.
Well, yeah, you used to have those little trolls that used to feed your beasts in order for them to take. Now they don't feed. That's one of their abilities. They pull off.
To be fair, they do have that unit of pigs that are, and when we say pigs, they're pygmy trolls, basically. So they're not actually pigs like Oink Oink. Those are coming out later, by the way, for those that like the pharaohs. But they do have like a cook's galley kind of unit where they can pull off fury or give fury, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
If you like pirates, so even if you don't like trolls, these are pirates. So they have all the pirate stuff. They have a guy with a peg leg and a huge beard.
Booty boss, man. They got a booty
boss solo money. Also, you'll notice that all of the warlocks have all the warcasters. I guess warlocks technically isn't a term anymore.
No, it's warlock. It's warlock.
Oh,
you got warcasters and then warlocks.
Okay. But if you notice all the ones for the trolls, the brine bloods, they all have some kind of pet that's on their shoulder. So one has like a starfish, the other has a squid, one has a monkey, one has an undead crow, one's riding a shark. So they all have pets, which is kind of cool.
I never noticed that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you like trolls, big characterful, so it's kind of interesting though. They still have the tough rule. So if you're familiar with that, all the infantry essentially, none of the beasts have this. All the infantry are going to have the tough rule except for the pigs, the pygmy trolls, because they're tiny. But if you get killed on a roll of a 5 or a 6, you don't die. You're just knocked down with 1 hit point.
Absolutely.
Which notoriously can be one of the most gut-wrenching things when you're expecting to kill something. And it's like, oh, he made 5 out of 6 of his tough rolls. Great.
I made 0 out of 8 tough rolls this past weekend.
Get good, Chris. What do you want me to say?
I know. I just can't roll a 5 or 6 to save my life.
But I will say, it's no surprise I'm getting back into this. So it's kind of a slow learn as I get reacquainted with the world here. But talking with people on the Warmachine Discord, I was talking a little bit of tactics, just trying to get a feel of how I should play trolls, because I think when you see, especially the big trolls, you think, oh, I want to run up and punch stuff. But trolls actually, I mean, one, they're pirates. Pirates don't notoriously want to just run up at you. They want to kind of pick their spots. They want to, hit and run. They want to hit you here, but go there. A lot of smoke and shadow there. And that's kind of what I got from the community. They're like, yeah, this faction seems very objective focused, like scenario focused. You want to, yes, you might run up and punch things sometimes, but you really need to be geared towards a purpose of, okay, how is this going to score me points? They can take models off the table, obviously, but depending on your Warcaster, it's going to be very different. So I'm definitely interested to dig into it because I think Chris, I do like fighting and stuff, but I'm also very scenario based. Like, how is this going to score me points? So I like that this version of Trolls kind of go into that, which is cool.
Yeah.
So if you like monster trolley looking things, and if you like pirates, fantastic. Also, I feel like this faction, if you like painting ridiculously bright color schemes, these are the models for you. Because just very oceanic, bright. There's carapaces, bright sea creatures. I mean, even Chum, who's a giant shark that has a mind flail, and he's holding this fish as I guess, like flashlight or something. I don't know what he's doing with it, but it looks cool.
I mean, you know what they say: the more vibrant the color is, the more dangerous that creature is.
That is true, man. That is true.
Yeah, and I love the story with the trolls on both sides. Because they were, kicked out down to this little jungle like island region where they're having to. And it's funny because it's like one faction is on the outside of the island, on the sea and pirating and everything like that, and then the other part of the trolls are on the inside of that island in the jungle and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing some paint schemes of those jungle trolls too.
Yeah, so talking about the Southern Creole's Kithgard, so this is the other version. Now, something you want to keep in mind is I'm playing the Brine Blood Marauders. They do not mix with this other sub-faction. So yes, they are
only a few units will
they
ever
are
mix.
kin, but there's very few things that you can use in both armies. So don't buy the Kithgard and then buy a box of the Brine Bloods and think you can mash those together, because you'll have two factions. Essentially, that won't work. But
It will not.
this is the brand new, so this is just getting released. They teased it, and the first boxes are coming out. These are basically your commando trolls fighting in the jungles of Southern Creoles. So the Kithgard, I don't know if we know much. They do have the cards loaded. I haven't gone through them yet. But off of what I've heard from the keynotes from Steamforged, the thing I get from this is, okay, one, guns and bombs, and then traps. That seems like their general vibe.
Yep.
They actually have trolls that are coming out of little.
They're going to be able to ambush from the middle of the middle of the board. Yep, absolutely.
And did I hear them right that this version of the trolls, they're going to be able to, they get the ambush rule, but then they get like extra benefits to it and stuff? I think I heard them say something about that, so I'm interested to read more on it.
Yeah, supposedly. I haven't really gone super deep into the cards.
Or maybe it was the assault rule they were talking about. Like they do the assault rule, but they get an extra thing that benefits in addition to it.
Yep.
But the models look fantastic. There's even one troll that looked like Rambo, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have a character beast, a character dire troll that's literally throwing, I guess they're torpedoes or missiles or something. It's just chucking them. They have pigs on machine guns on top of trolls. If you like, I feel like if you played 40K and if you liked playing the Catachan Imperial Guard faction, this is your vibe. Maybe you don't care for trolls, but when you see the jungle fighting, you even have a guy who's like a sniper. I think this is where you're going to be like, okay, I'm in. If you have that vibe.
100%.
All right, now this is the last one that we have as far as the new stuff. Obviously, like I said, they're kind of continuing to release stuff. They have sculpts coming out for the Pharaohs, which I don't know if the Pharaohs coming out, Chris, are just going to be legacy or if they're putting them in the prime or whatever. So if they're following the same format that they have been doing, when they're announcing the releases of these, they are going into a prime. Okay. So
they're not going to,
The last one that we have currently is the Crucible Guard. Now, this came out after I left third, so I'm going to have to defer to you here, but it looks like, I don't know, they're jack heavy, but it looks like a bunch of guys also with like, I don't know, how do you describe these? Because
they're advanced mechanical heavy.
Okay.
So they have tanks, they have heavy duty jacks, they have Rocketeer units that fly assault troop type style. They've got a lot of like rocket launcher units and stuff like that. So they kind of pull from a couple of different faction styles. So they're fast,
And
and
did
they're
I heard Perkins say something that I don't know if this was one of their forecasters, but he was saying that they have abilities along the lines of things that continuous effects maybe don't expire, or they put out a lot of corrosion or something. I'm not sure.
they put out a lot of acid, so acid, and then they put out a lot of fire.
Okay.
And most every single model in that entire faction is immune.
So
to
you know,
both.
if you're playing against the guard, you're probably gonna have to deal with some kind of continuous effect.
Yes.
Okay. Which I'm sure is very unique because from what I've noticed in a lot of factions, except for some of obviously the fire-breathing dragons, there's some stuff in trolls. Some of their beasts put out extra effects, but it seems like that's kind of one of their faction things.
Yeah, it's faction things or sometimes even unit specific things.
Yeah.
For the most part, there's not a lot of continuous effects that are out. Like like you used to have all these different continuous effects that could happen. Not so much anymore, but they also have when you play casual games or tournament games, stuff like that. You've got different types of board effects that could happen, like burning lands, stuff like that stay on the board.
Yep. So I'm definitely interested to dig into these more. I know that we'll probably do more episodes where we talk about some of this stuff. But there's two last things that I want to talk about. One is just kind of a general talking about the casual play, the from the front lines casual play pack that they just put, Tales from the Front Lines. And then there's a couple questions we got from the Discord. So looking at the front lines, this just got released on Friday. So basically what this is it has three basically modes to it from what I understand. One, there's just general casual play. So this is just maybe you meet up on a Thursday, you guys just want to play something that's maybe not tournament driven. You're like, hey, let's play one of the scenarios from the casual play. Journeyman leagues, those are your slow grow leagues. If you're starting a community, you have people that are just getting into Warmachine, or if you guys want excuses to play different factions, maybe it's like, hey, let's all pick a different faction. Let's do a Journeyman league. That's basically you start low points and you work your way up to higher, basically full point games. And then also campaigns. This is more narrative driven. I think there's actually achievements if you do certain things. Like I said, I haven't gone through it in full, but that's generally the vibe that I got from what these campaigns and things are.
Yeah, 100%. So the casual play are going to be your more basic scenarios. So if you want to go and play some casual play, it's not going to be
are they less intensive than, say, your steamroller scenarios? Or are they similar?
No, they're less intensive than your typical steamroller scenarios, although they do pull from some of the different steamroller scenarios.
So that might be a good place to start off just to get used to how you score them.
Yes, 100%. And then you go into the campaigns, and the campaigns really start getting – or sorry, I'm not campaign. You go into Journeyman, and the Journeyman are going to be your active slow grow leagues. So
yeah, and it looks like in that they also have achievements while you're doing the league. So basically, if you
minor and major achievements.
Yeah. Yep. So they're won by a single player unless one or more players are tied, in which case the tied players share the achievement. So it just has things for like best strategist, best artisan. So once again, that's feeding into, we don't just want to stomp each other's face. We also want to paint our stuff and have cool looking stuff on the board.
Yeah. So for those old veteran Warmachine players, this is very similar to those patches that we used to get. So we used to get best sportsmanship patch, best painted army, and the guy who won the most. So now these are the major achievements that are won. Yep. So best strategist, best artisan, and then best commander. And then your minor achievements can be won by multiple people depending on different criteria, whether or not you do all the game, like play the a set number of games, or played at least every person. Painted models at each step, stuff like that. So you're going to get a lot. There's going to be a ton of opportunity to get a lot of different achievements, a lot of different awards, depending on where you're going to play, they're going to give you, free
Yeah,
stuff for
which is really cool
participating.
because you may not remember this because I think it was more in second edition, but they used to do these campaigns and they would have special patches that you could get for each campaign, and they'd have like chevrons and stuff.
Yeah.
So it seems very similar to that.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm waiting to see what comes in these kits. We can't really find anywhere that says exactly what comes in the kits, and we haven't been able to get the kits yet. So I'm really excited to see what's in them. Yeah.
Yep. And then we have the Frontier campaigns.
And then you have the campaigns, which I am so excited to play these. You can have people come in and out of them. It's got to be at least 2 people that stay in them, and they don't have to be the same 2 people. You could have, but basically what you do is you play different rounds. So like you say, you meet up on like a Saturday and play, 2 to 4 rounds. It's meant to be played in smaller scale from what I hear. So like 50-point games or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's a story-driven campaign. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I know that there's some content creators that they got some interviews with like Matt and some other people from Steamforged, and they got to talk in detail on this. So definitely check that out. I'm actually hoping to get our podcast a little more in the loop with Steamforged as far as that stuff goes. So hopefully that'll get approved where we can get this stuff a little more on the front end so we can do some more cool things like that for sure. But
I'm here for it.
But yeah, I mean, the casual play, like I said, just having that mode that you can switch to, because when you just do competitive play all the time and you're just preparing for the next one, it does burn you out quite a bit. Just
absolutely,
you can only play the same type of list, grind the same scenarios. Pretty much when you used to be preparing for events for Warmachine, you pretty much were just trying to get as many reps against different warcasters that were popular. Like, oh, I need to run against, Butcher 3 to see how this is going to respond. I need to, run against whatever Signar caster to see how my list holds out against that. I need to play against, the tree in circle. So it's cool that they're getting these different modes so you don't burn your community out, which is cool.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm all for staying power of any of these games. And SFG is looking like they're doing a great job of it. I am very excited to talk more about Warmachine content and, potentially to the SFG staff.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hear. So yeah, let's get into some questions and then we'll wrap this thing up. So we got Mr. Ninja Baggins from the Discord. So he was saying, as someone who was very into Warmachine in the 2010s, what mechanics have changed? So Chris, he played in 2010s. So if you played in second edition, you couldn't pre-measure. So that's one thing that you can do now. So that's
which there are arguments on whether or not it should go back to not pre-measure.
It's fair,
because there are certain situations where you're just like, gosh,
Yeah, so I would say that's a big one. Not having facing, so you don't have your arcs anymore. That's a big one because you have 360 now, so you can't do all this hit and run stuff like you used to. Get those back headshots that Chris used to do all the time with his.
Well, yeah, you take over, befuddle a jack and turn it around, and then every other shot now against it's got +2 basically.
I will also say that the scale has come down a bit because I feel like depending on when you were in the 2010s, the boards looked very much like a 40K army towards the end of third, from what I feel. I remember looking at a lot of tournaments and they'd have like 2 battle engines, a colossal, X amount of jacks, a bunch of infantry. And now I've been building my 100-point list. And they just don't look like that as much.
No, it's half the size. Absolutely.
So, and honestly, Ninja Baggins, there may be other changes, but those are the ones that I've noticed that I've seen. A lot of the rules feel very much the same. There'll definitely be some things that you run into. And then the other part of his question, he says, additionally, if I'm in love with alternating activations, Crisis Protocol, Malifaux, etc., what draws me back into something like that? I go, you go, old Warhammer, Warmachine 40K.
I already hit
yeah.
on that right there. Yeah, you know what you're going to do with your army. Like you don't have to change your entire.
I will
move.
say, out of the I go my whole turn, you go your whole turn, I think Warmachine balances and does that the best out of those other games. And we talked about it, so we got that one answered for you.
Yep.
All right, and we got a handful of questions from my buddy Tom Likely, old Tom. So he said, one, can you proxy? I think I saw, Chris, that you can, but it has to be approved for tournaments by the person running it essentially ahead of time.
Yeah, so basically how this works is, yes, you can proxy if you're going to be playing in a Iron Gauntlet rated tournament, then they're going to be more strict on proxies and stuff like that. You got to have certain weapons. It has to be obvious what the model is, stuff like that. And it has to be released to the general public. So with the only exception being a con exclusive release. So for instance, say you went to Adepticon and they released the Gorger there. They also released it to everyone else, but you got to order it.
Yeah.
That day one, so nobody else is going to have it, but they're going to let you play it in those tournaments at Adepticon.
Now, Chris, this is kind of a personal question that Tom asked, so I hope you're not offended, but he says, does base size matter? And
size always matters, man, but hey, it's not the motion of the ocean.
So if you're not familiar, I mean, Warmachine has very similar. So if you played Malifaux, it actually has 30, 40, 50 mil bases like Malifaux. But for its bigger units, because it does have colossals and it does have battle engines, you can also see an 80 and is 100?
120.
120.
Yeah.
So you do have some of the bigger for those huge models, those colossal models, which are amazing to see on the table. So it does matter because there's actually rules as well where it'll be like, hey, if you have a model with equal to or less than base size, you can pull them in. Models do block line of sight, if I remember correctly. Like they can intervene and disrupt what you're doing.
Yes.
Which I know was one of the things with Age of Sigmar. Chris threw a fit on. He's like, I found my great unclean one. How can you see behind him?
Yeah, the whole concept of this is it's a moving big beast. Yes, absolutely. Volume of size is a thing. Yeah. And yes, all of these models have expected volume of size. Now, sometimes you'll have people who put, rocks and stuff like that, and then put the actual model on top of rocks, and they think that that's going to block something. No, like it's volume of size is that guy on the base.
Yeah. And then is it objective oriented like the strats and schemes? So for our Malifaux folks, Chris, how would you say it compares to scoring points with, is there an overall strategy? Are there other schemes? Like, how does that work for actually playing a game where you're trying to score points?
I win the majority of my games by winning scenario.
Yeah.
100%. You play 7 rounds max. You usually know by turn 3 who's going to win. There are swings that can happen, 100%. You could assassinate. That is absolutely a valid way to win the game. But I win the majority of my games on scenario. So, yes, it is objective-oriented. That's how I win my games. You don't just run up and try to kill. You play the game every way that it is meant to be played.
Yep. Are the models on sprue, pre-assembled, or what? So,
ooh, I got this one. Okay. The really cool thing now about this game is all of the new models, if they're infantry, they are all pre-assembled, come built. It's fantastic. Except jacks and stuff like that. Jacks, you're going to have different arms, different heads. They send you all the heads that's available, all the arms that's available, and you magnetize them. And like Pete hit on earlier, they're all pre-sized out for the magnets in there. All you have to do, like I literally on my little station right here, I've got tons of magnets just sitting here that are all waiting for new models that I get that I can plug them in and go.
Yeah, the only ones that aren't pre-assembled is the starter box halves, essentially, or the starter box. Those do have assembly, but if you've assembled Malifaux models, you'll have no problem with these models.
Yeah, these are way easier than Malifaux models. Yeah.
No dig at Malifaux, but we all know some of those Malifaux models are ridiculous. Okay. Are there vehicles? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, depends on the faction. Yeah.
There are, though. There's dudes. So there's dudes in mechanical suits, so kind of like a Charles Hoffman feel to them, like the Manowar models in Kador.
Yeah.
You have jacks, you have tanks, you have like dirigibles for my trolls, which I love. I'm getting a couple of those dirigibles in, and I'm super pumped about it. So
every faction has a cavalry now.
Yeah.
Also, if that's what you mean by vehicles, it's it's the object or the ideal is that this is a medieval type steampunk type situation. Although I guess you can't say medieval, but it's like an older era. So yes, there are cavalry everywhere. I'm actually kind of excited to see what the Pharaoh cavalry looks like. I keep throwing SFG. If you're listening, make them riding gators. Okay, make the pigs riding gators or something like that. It would be awesome.
Last question from Tom, and then we got a few more. How confident are you in Steamforged as a company? So I think this is one that if you are a Guild Ball person, you're probably a little hesitant because, maybe you got the bad burn from Steamforged. So, Chris, how confident are you, since you've been gaming for the better part of, 9-10 months playing it? How comfortable are you from what you've seen?
I have liked how Steamforged has handled every single response to anything that they have done that's negative and perfected and fixed it. They have touched on everything that they have ever done wrong, talked about it, and fixed it.
The worst part about Steamforged games coming from Guild Ball is that you could not get product. It was very difficult at times in Guild Ball's history to get the stuff you wanted to play. You would get new people interested. You couldn't get them new stuff unless it was like blacksmiths and farmers. Those were the only two that were readily available. They have fixed that from everything that I see. Even with these new releases, that's the thing I was surprised about the Kith Guard. They just started talking about them. They just dropped videos, hyped them up, and all of a sudden it's in my store. Old Steamforged, I probably would have expected to see that in the summer, man. But so, and the people that I know at Steamforged, I have a lot of positive interactions with and confident in their ability to do stuff. So yeah, that's another reason why I came back, just because from what I was seeing, it looked very positive. So, and people know I'm not scared to throw shade at a company when I don't feel like they're doing the right thing or, they're doing a crappy job. So, for me, and obviously I've changed over the years. I got a lot more gray hair now, but for me, after being so ticked off about the death of Guild Ball, to come back and support a company that happened to, I think that can show you a lot of things. So yeah, definitely some confidence there. Let's see here. Taking the time to.
Yeah, Michael's basically just saying that he loves the fact that the turns aren't forever long. With the
your feet turn be long.
Of a feet turn could be long. You're absolutely right, Michael.
Yeah, that's not really a question there. So let's kind of keep scrolling down there.
Is it better than Warhammer?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it's a lot easier to get into. It's a lot easier to play.
So the only thing I will say and I don't even know if Warhammer does this anymore. Warhammer used to be the tabletop game that brought people into just gaming because that was their first tabletop game. I don't know any teenager who can really afford to play 40K, but if you're still getting in as a teenager, I guess 40K is great, but that's what 40K used to be. It used to be like, here's a cool environment. People love the story. They got into it, and now they go into other games that once they realize how crappy GW can be at times.
Yeah, 100%.
It's absolutely a better game. I mean, I would be it would be hard for me to look at another tabletop game and not say it's better than 40K. I am so unimpressed with 40K just as a
Yeah,
game.
as a game,
I think people only
completely
play
agree.
40K because they love the lore and the universe so much.
Yeah.
Mechanics wise,
All right.
I don't agree with it, but okay.
And the next actual question isn't for a couple more lines.
Yeah, that's where I
down.
yelled at people. It's like, listen, I need actual questions.
Yeah.
Go to the
What are the challenges new/returning players will face trying to get into Warmachine? As a returning player, you're not going to find many challenges. They've streamlined a lot of stuff. Like Pete talked about earlier, you got your snap in with models, so you move one model, everyone else snaps in. That is light years easier than how it used to be, and trying to position all these guys. New players, I mean, obviously, you're going to have that learning curve when it comes to any war game. But like I said earlier, or I don't know if I said it on the podcast actually, but one of my good buddies here in Charleston's 10-year-old son is playing and came in 17th place out of 28 people.
Yeah, I think that the bigger challenge is definitely going to be for the newer player because I just feel like returning players, it's going to be a relatively just it's probably been 10 years or so for some returning players. So you'll have to remember, dust the cobwebs off to remember, oh, yeah, this is kind of how the game works. But new players, just start off 30 points, just learn how to, what an activation looks like, learn how to attack stuff, learn how to, buff yourself up and all that stuff. And just you'll grow from there. It's just you'll slowly figure it out.
Yeah, my only suggestion is if you're new into the game and you're an adult who has, a little bit of, I say, I don't mean like adult, like derogatory or anything like that, but adult that has some spending money in his wallet, stuff like that. I would suggest find the army that you like, get the 2-player battle box of that army, and find one of your friends who doesn't play war games and learn it together.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much easier when you play and you talk and you turn us into a community. It's so much easier and you have more fun.
Yeah, so that is all of our questions. I feel like we did a pretty good job, Chris, just kind of going in, people coming into the game, generalization of the factions, got some thoughts about the casual play. Yeah, man, I mean, how I guess I think I already know the answer to this, but I guess you've been playing it still, like I said, some months longer than me. But how do you feel about? I just feel like there's a ton of hype that's been recently coming out with the game, and communities have been really wanting to dig into it. So how are you feeling? Just kind of seeing everything over the past few months here.
I'm loving it. We're good. We're growing by leaps and bounds when it comes to the Warmachine community. And I love playing against new players. I will help every single game that I play.
You like the club seals.
Yeah, every single game I play, my only goal is to teach the other person something about Warmachine, teach something new, and I love the community and the camaraderie. And I wanted to be a press ganger for the longest time, back in the day. And it's just Privateer Press just nuked the hell out of that shit.
Yeah.
SFG is reopening it, and like it's a great time to get back in. So if you're on the fence, to go to your local gaming shop, see if there's a community, see if they've got one of those Warmachine, end caps or whatever you want to call them. And if they do, then get back into the game. It's growing. It's great. It's a great community.
And also, if you talk to your local game store, hopefully you have one. If not, this is a game where you could definitely do, a community-based like club, which, that's not usually in the United States what we do. Usually most, areas are going to have a game store of some range. But I will say, if you have your game store look into it, if they haven't already, Steamforge is proactively, reaching out to these stores, and they're basically giving them, starter boxes, and they're giving them different files where they can print like trophies and stuff and terrain. So Steamforge is reaching out to these stores, so you can actually probably have your local game store if they haven't heard
The
from that
files for the trophies are phenomenal. I love the sculpts and stuff like that. And it's actually really cool. I like what Steamforge is doing because they're actually giving stores different ambassadors.
Nice.
So these stores are talking to the same people. It's not like, ordering from, if I want this game, I got to go here, stuff like that. It's anything Steamforge related. They go to the same ambassador, and from what I hear, it is a very white glove treatment. It's fantastic.
Yep, so definitely check that out. Like I said, we plan on putting out more content. Obviously, I'm not going to do faction and scenario steamroller specific things until I get my feet a little more wet with that, which, Chris might be coming out to Kansas for maybe an Oklahoma tournament. That's the scheme anyways.
Yeah, I can get out there this summer.
There, you can drag Chris and Evan with you too.
Maybe we all rent a camper and just drive out there.
Hey, listen, it's beautiful country. Anyways, until next time, make sure you guys are rolling dice and throwing salt, and we will talk to you all later.